Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we are going to pull another rib primal out of the dry ager. Now I had made these big plans of when I was going to pull them out. I had this schedule, kind of all went sideways. This rib primal has been in here now, or all of them have been in here now for 120 days. So we're going to pull this out. This is a 3 rib primal that I got from my friend Jamie. And this went in at 7.91 kilos. And it's 6.46 kilos now. So we've lost not an insignificant amount of weight being in the dry ager. Now, there's not a lot of mold on this at all. There's just a tiny, tiny little bit of mold. And I know that down in the comment section, I get comments all the time from people saying, oh, you know, you're never going to get mold in that small of a unit. You're not going to be able to build up the flora that you're looking for. I'm not looking for excessive amounts of mold. There's a little bit more on some of those, but I'm not looking for it. And in researching this project, I spent quite a lot of time hanging out with chefs and butchers who have big room-sized dry aging cabinets for the meat that they either serve to their customers at the butcher shop or in the restaurant. And pretty much in every case, with one exception, in every case, they viewed mold as a failure. If there was mold in their cabinet or on their meat, they failed. They weren't looking for that super moldy blue cheese flavor. They just wanted a slightly funky but more beef flavor. And that's what I'm going for here. I may at some point stick some meat in the smaller dry ager that I have that I'm using to do cured sausage in a smaller environment and introduce a specific type of mold and see what happens. That's down the road. Right now, I'm just looking for big beef flavor. Now, I need to trim this up. So I need to remove pretty much all of this and this little bit of fat cap and all of the hard on the outside. Now, I said it before, I'll say it again, not a butcher, don't do this every day. I may have a little bit of trouble getting this done. And yes, I've watched butchers do this over and over and over. And there's a difference between watching someone do it and thinking that you can do it, and then actually standing here and trying to do it. Two different things. If I did this every day, this would be a breeze. I'd make it look effortless, but I don't do it every day. So if you're doing this at home for the first time, don't feel bad if you don't get it right on the first try. Don't feel bad if you don't get it right on the 10th try. It'll be okay. Do your best and just hack away at it, and it'll be fine. Okay, so there's quite a bit of fat here that I can render out, and there's little slivers of muscle in here, little bits of meat that I could probably save. I could cut out and use it to grind into sausages or hamburgers or meat pies or something like that. So I'm getting closer to getting this cut down. Next thing I think I want to do is remove this pellicle here in the end, this hard bit. Take it back, and then I'll cut along the ribs and see if I can get 3 decent-sized steaks out of this. It is hard. That pellicle surface is really hard. So in here, just below the surface, there are some spots where some mold came through. Tiny little crevices where the mold got in. So I'm going to have to cut all of that away. Okay. Ooh. Okay, so that smells fantastic. Really big, beefy smell. I don't get a lot of mold smell, even though there is a tiny little bit of mold in a crevice there that's following through. I'll clean up these other 2, and I don't think I'm going to be able to leave them on the rib. I think I'm going to have to cut them off the bone completely in order to clean them up and get all of the pellicle off the outside. I'm going to trim this one up first and get it ready for cooking today. See how that mold just went through that little crevice there. That's all got to go. So I'm going to lose quite a bit of the fat on the outside, but that'll be fine. Now, I did lose more to trimming this time than I did last time. I had expected that. This rib primal has been in the dry ager twice as long. 120 days, I think I pulled the last one out at 50 days, so just over double the time. So I knew that there was going to be more pellicle on the outside that I needed to trim away. But I did lose more than I expected because of that vein of mold that ran through the middle. There were a couple of spots where it ran all the way through. And I'm not really sure what caused the gaps in the muscle. That shouldn't have been there. I probably could have tied the primal, maybe to tighten it up, which could have stopped that. But I'm not sure that I could have tightened it enough. So I'm going to take one of these steaks. I'm going to vacuum seal it. I'm going to stick it in the freezer, and I'm going to save it for a big reveal at the end when we're going to taste different steaks dry aged for differing amounts of time. The steak that I'm going to cook today, I'm going to salt, pepper it, I'm going to leave it out on the counter, and then we're going to do a reverse sear. And yes, I know a yellow cutting board isn't correct for beef. It's the biggest one that I have. I know that this is supposed to be used for chicken, but I'm not in a commercial kitchen. I'm in my home kitchen. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to get this clean, and I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to cross-contaminate it with raw poultry. It's okay. Don't freak out. Now this has been in a low oven, 200 degrees Fahrenheit, for just about an hour. And I've cooked it right now to an internal temperature of 120, 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That temperature will rise as it equalizes, sitting here on the counter, as I heat up the cast iron pan. And I'm going to get this cast iron pan really hot. I'm going to hit it with a little bit of oil, and we're just going to sear the outside. And this should get me to a medium rare, which is how I'm finding I really like dry-aged meat. I like the dry-aged meat cooked just a little bit farther. And one of the things I've also found about dry-aged meat is the longer you dry it, to this point anyway, it doesn't stay as bright pink inside when you cook it, even too rare. You don't get that reddish, really red color. The color's really dull. It's like the color has vanished during the aging process. Okay, a little splash of oil. Okay, got a little bit of smoke coming off, looking good, and this comes with a handle. So, in we go. And I'm just going to press it down because the bone is sticking up on this side. I want to make sure I get good contact with the pan. We are going to get a really nice crust on the outside of this. And we'll just let that rest a couple minutes. Hey, Jules.
Hi, Glenn. Hi, friends.
So, 120-day dry-aged rib steak. It smells a little funky.
Okay, yeah, it does have an odd smell. I wasn't
Yeah.
sure if that was, the steak or something else you've got going on.
No.
It is an odd.
It didn't have this.
It's not awful. It's
No.
just not a smell that I'm used to.
You don't
for lack of a
associate
better
it with a steak.
No.
And so it didn't have that smell initially, but as it was cooking in the oven, I started to notice that it was a little bit funky. So
Okay, fork.
I guess we'll just start cutting into it and see what happens. Okay, so let's take it off the bone first. And then do a couple of, so there is no pink color.
No.
No pink color at all. And that's what I found the last couple of times we've done this, huh?
So I guess from that, yeah, you have to assume that if you're going to be eating dry-aged meat, you've got to know that even if it's done to like a medium rare,
Yeah.
it may not be the color you think it's supposed to be.
Rare to
Isn't-
medium rare, it's not going to have that color.
So I'm not an expert on cooking meat in any way. Is that like, how they always say is that the right?
I hate that.
I don't know.
I hate that because I look at guys who, they do this, but depending on what you do for a living,
That could be very-
that could be very hard. You know, you could be doing something with that hand all day long, and even on my left to my right, it's a different texture. The only way to do it, the only way to know, the only way to be sure, is with a temperature probe.
Okay.
So I pulled
So even though it's the correct temperature,
that. Yes, you can't do it. 122 degrees Fahrenheit is what that came out of the oven at, and then it rested for a little bit while I heated the pan, and then I just crusted the outside.
so it has a very meaty smell to it.
It's really juicy too. Wow.
It has a very meaty taste to it.
That's great.
It's chewy, even though I know that I mean, normally if I had a fresh steak, it wouldn't be chewy like this. It would be kind of soft and melty. But
But it's not dry, bad steak chewy.
no.
No, it just pushes back a little bit and says, you know, I'm going to make you work for it. But the flavor is really good, I think. At the same time, I know that even though the flavor is really good, I wouldn't eat as much of it.
Because it's a lot of flavor.
It's a lot.
It's a lot of flavor.
Like, it's a big flavor.
I'm also not sure if I would normally wait 120 days to have it. I don't know that it's worth 120 days of my time. I mean, I guess it is just sitting there.
On a regular basis, I don't know that I would go 120 days. But as an experiment, I think this is
Oh yeah,
a great thing.
It's great to find out.
We've got 2 more that are going to go even farther.
And it certainly is more. It is certainly special.
It is
Like if you were
special.
looking for a special treat, this could certainly be it.
This is special. This is something that would bring a smile to everybody's face at the table, and they would love it. No blue cheese. Like there's none of that really funky flavor, even though there's a funky smell.
Here I am digging in again.
Yeah,
So
I'm really happy with this. So, 120-day dry aged ribeye steak, reverse seared, cooked in a low oven, and then hit in a hot pan just a little bit. This is really good. I wish I could share this with everybody.
it's not the taste you think it's supposed to be,
No,
but it's still a really good
still
taste.
really good taste. So I wish I could share this with you. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.
Yeah. Like it's not. It's a completely different flavor, and I would put a whole bunch of different flavors with it. So I do notice though that it's starting to get pinker in the middle now that it's sat for a little bit.
Yes, and so last time when we did that 71 dry aged strip loin, some of those steaks, because we ate them for 3 or 4 days in a row, the day after when I cut them up to put them on top of a salad, they were very pink in the middle, even though they weren't pink while we were eating them during the test.
Theories?
No clue.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
Maybe on the next one.
Yeah.